while they're making their way up, I did notice that State Representative Davison is here. Where did he go? Yeah, he's in the back here. He represents us well in Indianapolis, so let's give him a round of applause. Tonight. Our first question, we have 5 questions that are written out, and again, just as a reminder, if you do have a question from the audience, please feel free to write that down and submit it to Nancy up here. She'll be happy to take a look at it and maybe get that question asked. So our first question this evening is, does the county have an adequate number of deputies? What, if any, staffing changes would you make in this regard? Mr. Newland, we'll start with you.
Absolutely not. We're very understaffed. There's only 12 of us. To compare it, there's 13 officers in the city for approximately 7,000 people and 3.5 square miles. For us, it's about 465 square miles with 12 officers. That 12 officers is including the sheriff. As far as fixing it, there's a lot of, we're just going to have to let the county, it can't afford to add more officers, but we can remedy some of the problems by getting our reserve staff back up to date. We've hired several of our reserves, but they're a tremendous asset to the department. But there's numerous ways we can start with our reserves. They do a lot of work for the officers, with the officers. We try not to put them in situations where they'd have to take days off to go to court, but that's some of the things. Yeah, we are understaffed very much.
Thank you. Yeah, the county is understaffed. Historically, in Morrison County and Salem, that's been an issue with law enforcement, is being understaffed, and the land mass is a problem for a small staff like that. The reserves are a big asset to any policing agency statewide, but you can't ask them to do all your work for you. They are volunteers, and they're not people that have to be there. They derive their income from another source. You have to be careful with reserves. You don't want to get them out here and get them in a situation, even though they're volunteering, they get hurt. Well, they can't go to their jobs, and their family's going to suffer. So you got to be real cautious how you utilize your reserve staff. Paid men are the ones that are responsible for getting the job done. There's some ways to alleviate that. Try to work with scheduling. Try to work with maybe electronic type equipment and so on and so forth that we could use, some type of modern technology. So explore it as we find the problem.
I'd say they've been running pack staff for a long time, and there's not been a real easy way to add officers budgetary-wise and stuff like that. And they say the council and commissioners are both eyeballing the new jail as a potential cash cow, and they need to think who's taking care of them when they start doing that. They need to make sure they got enough staff at the jail to take care of the extra people, especially when you get people from other places, and they need to consider their staffing to be the first priority, and the revenue just to be an upside to it when everybody's taken care of.
Mr. Overshine, we'll start with you with this next question. If elected, describe what an average day would look like for you.
An average day is once you arrive. Now, realistically, average is a big statement for law enforcement. I've learned that from just doing it. But an average day, you'd arrive, and of course you'd want to do your catch-up on what occurred the night before, deal with any problems, evaluate how problems had been dealt with by the staff during the night, with an eye to how things were done, how it's going to affect you that day. Get with your staff for the upcoming day and decide what problems you might be facing that day. You can speculate to some degree what could be happening. You always want to think ahead and work with your people. Your people are trained to deal with this. Problem solving is what it's all about. And then you would want to be out. You got to be out and meet with the people. You got to talk to the people. People's gonna wanna talk to the sheriff. So be open at all times to anybody and everybody, including your employees may have problems they need to come and talk to you about. We are all humans and we all have homes. Thank you.
Averages, after working at the factory as a supervisor, there is no real average. I mean, when the buck stops with you, if you gotta go back twice after you go home, think you're going home, you do what you have to do, and it turns into a 7-day-a-week job. But the big thing about it is that you get a good staff and you take care of your staff, and when they really need you, they'll call you, and when they've got it under control, then you gotta have faith that they're gonna take care of you in that way too. But you just have to be available to your staff and do what needs to be done.
And from what I've seen in the last several years, the years I've been there, the average day can be 10 to 12 hours on a short, good day. You never know when you walk in the morning if you get a chance to sleep, to come in the morning. You may get called out at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you may be out all night, but I agree with what both gentlemen said. There's really not a good average day. They can change in a heartbeat. You may be planning on going to a ball game, going to a school, going to a function, going home, and then everything will break loose and you may be out till the next morning. So there is no, I can't say there's an average day. Those are far between.
We'll go ahead and start the next question with you. What, in your opinion, what is your opinion on dealing with the current drug problem? The question continues to ask, do you support a county drug task force, implementing a DARE program, having a deputy present in each county school?
I think if you can afford to have the deputy out there, that's a good thing. If not, you may need to use him elsewhere in the meantime for your other stuff. That's kind of a luxury. You want to get them out to the schools when you can, but you have to get an attitude of the people that they want them there, and that they're willing to tell them what they want to hear. The DARE program, anything you can do to get these young people from trying the stuff the first time is a good thing. The drug problem, you look around and everybody's been touched by it, and if they're not been touched by it, they're really lucky. And it has to be reeled down on the dealers, but the problem is the dealers used to be the victims 6 months earlier. When they can't hold a job no longer, and it's a big problem, and it's gonna take a lot to get it done. And if we need the help from the state, when they pulled their task force this last year, we really didn't even pull it, and we need to do what we can in our own. Thank you.
I'm 100% behind the drug task team or the drug team. Our drug teams had a lot of effective arrest, deterrence. A lot of time our drug team will actually turn a case into drugs, but also get us on the direction of solving several burglaries and thefts. And it also works the other way. You know, a lot of times we'll get a lot of burglaries and thefts, and it'll turn into drug cases. But I'm 100% behind the drug team. The schools, we're fortunate enough to have a reserve officer in West Washington School. We have an officer that tries to come by there every morning and make an appearance. We have a full-time officer that substitutes over there. We have a town marshal in the town of Pekin that is in Eastern School every morning. He's there multiple times during the day, and he's there every evening when school lets out. So for anything we can do to get people in the schools, take care of the kids.
Yeah, I think you answered some of the question as you were asking the question, and you said 3 different things, and then of course I'm for that 3 plus 3 or 4 more, whatever we can think of that works, because it's going to have to be tackled from different angles, multi-front type thing. The more you can do, the better chance you have of alleviating a problem. Now, somebody says money, money, money. Sometimes it's just work. Everybody's worried about dollar bills. Sometimes it's just work it takes to be done. And yes, the drug task force is a wonderful group, or drug team, wonderful group of people. but that's just one group. They can't do it all. They do a great job, but again, they need help just like anybody else. Roger said, one thing leads to another, so it takes a group. It takes a team on top of a team to work together, and the community helping those that are on the front lines doing it. So you gotta have the communication that occurs, and it needs to be a fine circle, two ways.
Excellent. Well, the next question is, our second to last question here. The state does not require a county sheriff to have any law enforcement experience. Is this a good policy in your opinion? We'll start with you, Mr. Nichols.
It's just an opinion. The sheriff is gonna be the leader of, in our situation, 11 more men underneath of him. So they're gonna be coming to him for the advice and law enforcement. He's gonna have to be a leader and lead these guys in the right directions to avoid them getting in a bad situation or getting the county in a lawsuit. So, in my opinion, I believe the sheriff should have some background in law enforcement, and even though the law doesn't require it, I believe they should have some background in law enforcement. Nothing else, at least attended the academy and have some experience.
You're not gonna find me, I try not to be too critical of policy. Again, opinion, yeah, it's my opinion that in law enforcement, a sheriff should be a highly trained individual. As a certified instructor, one of the rules of being an instructor, the state of Indiana by Law Enforcement Training Board is, you gotta be better than the people you're training. I think the same thing about the sheriff. Sheriff needs to be equal to or better than the people that he's training. He needs to be able to help them get through difficult times. He needs to help them understand what's going on and be able to answer their questions. If he can't answer their questions, he should have a treasure trove of people that he can call up and say, got this problem, help me out, need it real time. I've got friends in my past that says, call me anytime, day or night. They help you in the bat of an eye. So the sheriff needs to be highly trained, have a network of people that supports him, and be there to help them at any given moment, and help the county from being sued, and it's not a perfect world, so, yes, sheriff needs to be trained and certified.
I'm gonna say no, but that's, typical. I think you got good people for resources to get the answers you need from. I think, what we've been looking at now is the jail expansion and how many bodies we're gonna have to be looking out for and how many we're gonna have to have underneath the sheriff, whether we have to have additional bodies. I had 67 people under me spread out over 3 shifts when I was a supervisor down at Netshape. The personnel's not an issue. The other things are not an issue. Most of the law is pretty well common stuff that everybody knows, so that they shouldn't be playing trick or treat with the public on laws anyway. If the law says .08, that's what it is. You don't go reaching trying to find new things that don't actually work out. So I believe you treat everybody right, you give them as much information as you can. It's a public relations job, not necessarily a policing job, to take care of the county. Thank you.
This is the last written question. Oh, okay, yeah, we'll go to that one. Or do you want me to substitute it? Okay, well, we do have a question from the audience, but I'll read that while y'all are answering the last written question here. And we'll go ahead and start with you, Mr. Overshiner, and work our way back through, trying to keep it even and fair here. What 3 qualities make you the best candidate for our next sheriff?
3 qualities I have is, one, I have an extensive background in history and law enforcement, 32 years. Worked at 4 different policing agencies, got a healthy respect for what it takes to be in a policing business, all the way from a beginning level as a patrolman, or actually a beginning level as a cadet trainee at Indiana University Campus Police, all the way up to an assistant chief of a policing agency there at Salem, and now currently work at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy as a staff duty officer in the main premier training center in the state of Indiana, in Plainfield. So I get to see a little bit of everybody from all different angles and all different times, and have throughout the 32 years. And I also am a certified law enforcement instructor and have been since 1989, training many of the officers that work in this county. My third best quality would be outgoing personality, highly involved, willing to get out there and listen to people, believe in communicating. My wife would tell you I talk too much, but I sometimes think you can't talk too much, you need to listen along with it, and it's a two-way road.
I bring a perspective from the non-law enforcement side of the picture, not an outlaw side, but a non-law enforcement side. I also have a military background. I believe it's not just looking out for the suspects and perpetrators, but looking out and taking care of all the people. I think I have a willingness to step up to the plate when we have problems. We've had the public been denied some of their rights, and I think we need to step up, not a onesie-twosie, but for everybody's rights when they've had the public thrown out of a public meeting without cause. We've had the public not been given all their legal rights to a legal hearing with the Peterborough Board. I think somebody needs to step up. I'm surprised that we don't have any of our current office holders saying this ain't right, we're not going to allow this to happen again. What are we going to do to correct it in the future? Thank you.
I think with the years I've had with the marshal's office and the sheriff's department, I have a well understanding of what's expected of the sheriff, of the counties. I have a well understanding of what's expected from the sheriff's department and their responsibilities for both courts in the county. And that's from serving thousands of papers a year to prisoner transports, extradition of prisoners from out of states. The courts all run on how you take care of their issues and what you're responsible for. And then the last one, I have a well understanding of what the jail operations are, what's expected, your responsibilities on running that jail securely, effectively, and economically. I think that's the main thing here in this situation is operating that jail under those three things.
Well, this is a question from the audience. It's relating to the budget. What experience do you have that will help you manage a budget that's one of the largest in the county? Yeah, we can start with you, sorry.
Well, probably the years I've had, the last 8 years mainly, under the sheriff that we have now. He's very conservative. He's taught me a lot. If I'm elected, we'll see how good a teacher he is, but I think he's done well. And I hope to continue the spending that he's done, the way he's done things. Like he said earlier, he's operated on the same budget since 2007 and been able to stay under that budget. And I think he's taught me what we need, what we don't need, and it can be done. And I think I can, learning under the way he did it, I think I can, or I know I can do the same job he did.
When it comes to budget, I think everybody's gonna find out that after the new jail gets totally open and running, that things like we have known them in the past aren't gonna be. We need to change and move up with the new jail expansion. There's gonna be possibilities of more money coming into the county through potential bed contracting and so on and so forth. Nobody's gonna really know the total outcome of that until it starts occurring, if it does occur, and I suspect it will. Budgeting, I worked on our pension board, their police department for almost 20 years, worked at the city police department, watched the operation of the budget there, watched things going on. Many of the budgets in places like sheriff's department, city police are line items. You're given X number of dollars, that's what you're approved, that's what you're gonna work within. You may conserve, sometimes you may go over, sometimes you have to ask for special appropriations. But State Board of Accounts is gonna come back and talk to somebody about what they've done, either right or wrong, so it's pretty got a lot of guidelines wrapped up with it. You'll have to follow those.
That's pretty much the thing, is the state gives you guidelines on where you have to, and you already have your budget and you know how much you're spending on your officers and how much you're spending on other things. It's just like your own home budget. You know, if you got extra money, you can spend that on extra things, and you know, right now the county awful tight. There's not a whole lot to go around extra. You can't, go saying I'm gonna hire 7 more officers, or I'm gonna go, crazy with what the budget is. It's pretty well just set for you already. You're just gonna have to try to stay within the guidelines of it as best you can, and, hold on tight as we do, expand the number of people in the jail, and hope that everything does work out in the direction we believe it's going to.
Well, thank you guys. Are there any other questions from the audience? All right, well then we will go ahead and start with you, if you don't mind giving us a few closing words.
The only closing thing, I wasn't real sure that this is really the job I wanted to do, but it's the job I felt needed to be done when I got looking around, and there is a lot more drug problems out here than there had been 20 years ago. There's a lot of, and it's really bad stuff, the heroin and the meth and the spice and the stuff you wouldn't believe possible that a kid would intentionally take, but they do. And you see a lot of the devastation, and there's just a lot of problems that need to be addressed, and we've not been getting them addressed, and it's a steamroller, and there's no easy answer. And I brought this up when I started the campaign, but there's no easy answer for it other than try to get the community together. You gotta do a lot of PR work, you gotta show the people you're treating them right, so they'll treat us right, and we're all in it together, and we're not, and us against them, suspects and perpetrators and whatnot. We're just people. Thank you.
What I want people to know about me and what I want to do as sheriff is I want to represent a change up in the process. That's not being critical of the previous administrations in the past. They're all building stones, building blocks. But coming up, we have new times, new things are happening. I've had people come up to me in the later years of my career that were former drug addicts, and I knew some of them, and they knew me well, and they'd say, "You got to help us. Our grandkids are going to be facing things that are uglier than we ever seen." And so with those pleas coming towards me, and then an opportunity to run for sheriff, I felt it'd be a good opportunity for me to try to apply what I've learned over the years in my years of law enforcement to help alleviate that problem for the future of our young people here in the county. So I've got to work off of help with the community, and I've listened to the community during my campaign, and they're wanting change. They're wanting a different approach to sometimes old problems and new problems. And with that, we got the new jail, so it's a good time for that change to occur now. Thank you.
I'm not a big fan on change. I've seen change. We've tried a lot of change. Some of it worked, some of it took us backwards, and it takes a while to recover from that. But my main reason that I think I'm qualified for it is my experience in law enforcement, but that's a small part of this job. The big part of this job is being the leader of the department and managing and operating the facility that they're building up there now. And we've been operating with what the county has given us, and we can continue to do that. Whatever the county gives us to work with, money-wise in the budget, we can continue that, plus bringing, wasn't asked, but I would intend to bring IDOC prisoners. That's a big chunk of money over a year's time in the county's general fund. Also, we've already had one county wanting us to hold anywhere from 10 to 17 inmates once we get up and running. That's another big chunk of money into the county's general fund.
All right, thank you. Let's give these gentlemen a round of applause.